Get your free copy of the complete tutorial at www.teachucomp.com/free.
We will now discuss logical functions, which you can use to perform logical tests on the values within cells, and then return a result based on whether or not the value in the cell passed or failed the test. Logical formulas take the form of an if-then-else statement. You must know at least 3 different arguments before you can write a logical function. The first would be the logical test that you want to apply to the cell. The second would be the cell value or formula to return if the test returns a true value or passes the logical test. And finally, the cell value or formula to return if the test returns a false value or fails the logical test. When you write logical formulas, they have a certain syntax. Basically, the syntax is equals if, open parenthesis, then the logical test, comma, the true response, comma, and then the false response. Note that if you want the formula to display a text response for the true response or the false response, then you must place that response inside of double quotation marks. If you want the cell to display dates, then those dates must be enclosed within pound signs. The only time that you won't mark the type of value to return is if you want the cell to display a numerical result or calculate a formula. Next, we will look at a nested logical function. A nested logical function is one that places a cell through a second logical test if it fails the first logical test. These functions are useful for determining the value of a cell by placing it through several different tests, displaying different results based on which test it passes. You can nest up to 64 additional if statements behind your original. The syntax for these are equals if, then the logical test number 1, comma, then the true response, comma, if, open parenthesis, logical test number 2, comma, true response, comma, false response, and in this case 2 close parentheses. Now you must remember to close all of the open parentheses for every if statement that you nest within the logical function at the end of the formula. So in this case, since there are 2 if statements, there are 2 closing parentheses at the end of the formula. Often it's the case that you will want to know if a cell meets multiple criteria. You can also use the and or functions to find this out. The AND function will return a true value if the cell that's being evaluated passes all of the logical tests listed after the AND function. The OR function will return a true value if the cell being evaluated passes any of the logical tests that follow the OR function. Note that you can evaluate up to 255 different logical tests after the AND OR statements. When you look at how you can combine these tests with the if function or multiple nested if functions, you can begin to see how you can start to become a very powerful formula creator. Now you will be able to run cells through a battery of logical tests and then decide what function to perform or value to display within the cell based on the results. The general syntax when combining the if function with the and OR functions is equals if, open parenthesis, and, open parenthesis, logical test 1, comma, logical test 2, comma, etc., close parenthesis after the logical tests, comma, true response, comma, false response. If you're going to use the OR function, it would just be equals if, open parenthesis, or, open parenthesis, logical test 1, comma, logical test 2, comma, etc., close parenthesis, comma, true response, comma, false response.
Like what you see? Pick up your free copy of the complete tutorial at www.teachucomp.com/free.